My parents always favor my golden child brother. After years of emotional neglect, I finally cut contact. 5 years later, they called. Jake needed a kidney transplant, and I was a match. I told them, "You gave him everything while I got scraps. Now you want my kidney? Ask your favorite. See if he's got one to spare." The kitchen smelled of burnt toast and resentment. I stood by the counter, gripping the edge until my knuckles turned white, watching the familiar scene unfold like a well-rehearsed play where I'd never been cast as anything but the extra. Mom had her arms wrapped around Jake's shoulders, her voice dripping with honeyed praise. "Oh, sweetheart, we knew you could do it. AB plus in calculus? That's practically an A in Mr. Henderson's class." She pressed a kiss to his temple like he'd just cured cancer instead of barely passing a subject I'd aced 2 years ago. I remembered bringing home my own report card, straight A's, top of the class, only to be met with a distracted, "That's nice, dear," before Mom rushed off to Jake's baseball game. "He got 3 B's and a C, Mom," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing in my chest. "Well, I got those grades. You grounded me for a month." Dad didn't even glance up from his newspaper. "Don't start, Emily. Your brother's working through some difficulties this semester." The hypocrisy burned like acid in my throat. Difficulties? You mean like how he worked through wrecking the car last year? Or how he struggled with stealing money from your wallet? My laugh came out jagged. Funny how his difficulties always end with you making excuses. Mom's face twisted like I'd slapped her. "Why do you always have to be so bitter? Can't you just celebrate your brother's successes for once?" Something inside me cracked open. Celebrate what? My voice rose, raw and trembling. The fact that he breathes and you throw him a parade? Meanwhile, I could set myself on fire to keep this family warm, and you wouldn't even smell the smoke. The room went deadly quiet. Jake shifted uncomfortably, but I saw the smirk he tried to hide. He'd won this game before we even started playing. "That's enough." Dad's newspaper hit the table with a sharp slap. "We will not tolerate this kind of disrespect in our house." "Your house." The words tore out of me, years of swallowed pain giving them teeth. Funny how it's only our house when I'm expected to follow rules. When it's him, I jabbed a finger at Jake. He could burn the place down and you'd blame the matches. Mom's hand flew to her chest like I'd cursed in church. "How dare you? After everything we've done for you. What have you done?" I was shouting now, tears hot on my cheeks. "Giving me a roof? Food? Congratulations. You did the bare minimum required by law. But love? Support? Ever looking at me like I mattered half as much as him?" My breath came in ragged gasps. "You want to know why I'm bitter? Because I spent my life begging for scraps of your attention while you serve him a feast." Jake rolled his eyes. God, here we go again. Poor, pitiful Emily. Always the victim. The casual cruelty of it, the way he said it like we were discussing the weather, was the final straw. I turned on my heel and marched toward the hallway, my entire body vibrating with adrenaline. "Emily, get back here this instant." Mom's voice had taken on that shrill, panicked edge she got when her perfect family illusion cracked. I kept walking. "If you leave now, don't bother coming back," Dad called after me, his voice cold as a judge passing sentence. I stopped at the door, my hand on the knob. The weight of the moment pressed down on me, the finality of it, the terrifying freedom. When I spoke, my voice was eerily calm. "Don't worry, Dad. I won't." The door slammed behind me with a sound like a guillotine dropping. The cold night air hit my face, and for the first time in 18 years, I breathed like a person who wasn't drowning. I didn't look back. Not at the house, not at the silhouettes in the window, not at the life that had never really been mine. Somewhere behind me, a phone was ringing. Let them call. Let them beg. I was already gone. As the distance grew between me and that house, the memories came rushing in like floodwater, unstoppable and suffocating. I was 6 years old the first time I realized I was an afterthought. It was Jake's 8th birthday, and the living room was a riot of color. Streamers, balloons, a cake shaped like a dinosaur. Mom had spent weeks planning it, her voice bright with excitement every time she listed off the decorations, the games, the special surprise she had for him. I sat at the top of the stairs, watching as Dad carried in a brand new bike, its chrome gleaming under the party lights. Jake screamed with delight, and the room erupted in applause. Then, quietly, I asked, "Do I get a bike for my birthday, too?" Mom had blinked at me, as if surprised I was there at all. "Oh, honey, you're still too small for a bike like that. Maybe next year." Next year came and went. Jake got a bigger bike. I got a used doll with a cracked face. "Be grateful." Mom had said when my face fell. Some children don't get anything at all. By middle school, I learned to stop asking. I came home with a science fair trophy, my name etched on the plaque, my project on plant growth praised by the judges. I held it out to Dad, heart pounding, waiting for the "I'm proud of you" that never came. "That's nice," he said, barely glancing up from his laptop. "Jake, come look at this. Coach says you've got real potential for varsity next year." Jake, who had spent the season warming the bench, grinned like he'd already won. I put the trophy on my dresser. By morning, it had been knocked over, the plastic globe cracked. No one noticed. High school was worse. I stayed up until 2 a.m. studying for exams while Jake played video games in the next room. When report cards came out, he got a slap on the back for his C's. I got a lecture about how I could have done better on the 2 A's buried in my C of A's. "You're so much smarter than this," Dad would say, shaking his head like I'd personally disappointed him. And then there was the car. Jake totaled Dad's sedan 2 weeks after getting his license. Racing friends, he'd taken a turn too fast. The insurance premium skyrocketed. Dad sighed, wrote a check, and said, "Boys will be boys." When I asked for the car to drive to my part-time job, Mom clutched her pearls. "Oh, Emily, you're not experienced enough yet. What if something happens?" The memories kept coming, relentless. The Christmas Jake got the gaming system he'd begged for, while I unwrapped socks. The way Mom's face lit up when Jake walked into a room, while I could stand right in front of her and still feel invisible. The time I came down with strep throat and spent 3 days in bed, shaking with fever, only for Mom to snap. "Can you please not be so dramatic? Jake has his championship game tonight." I didn't realize I was crying until the first tear hit my jacket. I wiped it away angrily, but more followed. It wasn't just the big things. It was the 1,000 tiny cuts. The way they didn't see me, didn't hear me, didn't care unless I was useful. Unless they needed something. A homework assignment done for Jake. A last-minute ride when he missed the bus. A silent ear to listen to Mom's complaints about work, about Dad, about life, while never once asking how I was. I was the backup, the afterthought, the just in case. The wind picked up, biting through my thin jacket. I didn't have a plan, no money, no place to go. But for the first time in my life, I had something more important. I had myself. And that was enough. The rain tapped a steady rhythm against my apartment windows as I curled up on the couch, a half-read book resting in my lap. 5 years. 5 years since I'd walked out of my parents' house and never looked back. The initial struggle had been brutal. Sleeping on friends' couches, working 2 jobs to put myself through community college, but I'd made it. My 1-bedroom apartment might be small, but it was mine. My life might be quiet, but it was peaceful. When my phone buzzed with an unknown number, I almost didn't answer. Something, maybe fate, maybe just morbid curiosity, made me swipe accept. Emily. That voice. That painfully familiar voice I hadn't heard in half a decade. My mother's tone was different now. Thinner, strained with an anxiety I'd never heard before. My entire body went rigid. I didn't respond. Couldn't. "Emily, it's Mom." As if I wouldn't recognize her. As if that word, Mom, didn't still send a jolt through my system, even after everything. "What do you want?" My voice came out colder than I intended, but I didn't soften it. They didn't deserve softness. The pause that followed was heavy with unspoken tension. I could hear her breathing, uneven and shaky. When she finally spoke, her words hit me like a physical blow. "It's Jake. He's very sick." Of course it was about Jake. My fingers tightened around the phone as bitter laughter bubbled up in my throat. After all this time, after complete radio silence, the first contact was about Golden Boy Jake. And I kept my voice deliberately flat. What does that have to do with me? Another pause. Longer this time. I could practically see her wringing her hands, that nervous tic she'd always had when things weren't going her way. He needs a kidney transplant." The words hung between us, thick with implication. My breath caught in my chest despite myself. A transplant? Serious then? Life or death? I waited, let the silence stretch. Made her say it. "They tested the family," she continued, her voice cracking. You're a match." There it was. The ask. The reason for this call after 5 years of nothing. Not to apologize. Not to see how I was. But because they needed something from me. Because Jake needed something. The irony wasn't lost on me. All those years of being second best, of being overlooked, and now my body, my literal flesh and blood, was suddenly valuable to them. "Emily." Her voice was small now, uncertain in a way I'd never heard before. Did you hear me? Oh, I heard you. I stood abruptly, pacing to the window where rain streaked the glass like tears. Let me get this straight. 5 years. 5 years of silence. And now, when Jake needs something, now you call. It's not like that, she protested weakly. It's exactly like that. My control snapped, years of pent-up anger rushing to the surface. Where was this concern when I needed you? Where were you when I was sleeping on friends' couches because I had nowhere to go? When I was working 2 jobs to put myself through school? Emily, please. No, you don't get to please me now. Not after everything. I took a shuddering breath. You made your choices. You showed me exactly where I stood in that family every single day of my life. The line was silent except for her ragged breathing. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. He's dying, Emily. The words should have gutted me, should have sent me reeling with guilt and fear. But all I felt was a strange, detached clarity. Then I guess you'd better start praying, I said quietly. Because my answer is no. The gasp on the other end was audible. You can't mean that. He's your brother. And where was my brother when I needed him? My voice rose, trembling with years of suppressed pain. Where was he when you were all treating me like some unwanted guest in my own home? Where was he when my throat closed around the memories? No. If he needs a kidney so badly, ask your favorite. See if he's a match. The click as I ended the call was final. Absolute. I stood there for a long time, phone clutched in my shaking hand, watching the rain distort the city lights outside. I expected to feel guilty, expected to feel something. But all I felt was free. They had made their choices. Now I had made mine. And for the first time in my life, I had chosen myself. The days following the call passed in a strange, suspended silence. I went to work. I cooked meals. I slept fitfully. But beneath the surface, a storm was brewing, one I knew would eventually break. It came on a Thursday evening. My phone lit up with a barrage of messages. First one, then 5, then a dozen in rapid succession. Emily, please. We need to talk. You don't understand how serious this is. He's your brother. I silenced my phone and tossed it onto the couch. But they didn't stop. The call started next. Unknown numbers. Blocked numbers. My parents' numbers, the same ones I deleted years ago, now flashing on my screen like ghosts from the past. I ignored them all. Then the knocking came. 3 sharp raps on my apartment door. Firm, insistent, the kind of knock that demanded to be answered. I knew who it was before I even looked through the peephole. My mother stood on the other side, her face drawn and pale, her hands clasped tightly in front of her like she was praying. Behind her, my father hovered, his usual stern expression replaced with something I'd never seen before, fear. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Emily, my mother called through the door, her voice breaking. Please, just let us talk to you. I could have walked away, could have pretended I wasn't home. But something, maybe curiosity, maybe the last fraying thread of obligation, made me turn the lock. The door swung open. For a long moment, no one spoke. We just stared at each other, the years of silence stretching between us like a canyon. My mother looked older. The lines around her eyes were deeper, her shoulders slightly hunched, as if the weight of the world had settled there. My father's hair had gone fully gray, his jaw clenched tight enough that I could see the muscle twitching. Well, I said finally, crossing my arms. Talk. My mother's hands fluttered nervously. Emily, we know we made mistakes. Mistakes? I let out a sharp laugh. Is that what you're calling it now? We didn't realize. Oh, you realized. I cut in, my voice low and dangerous. You just didn't care. Not until it affected him. My father stepped forward then, his voice rough. That's not true. Isn't it? I shot back. Where was this energy when I needed you? Where were your apologies when I was begging for just a fraction of the love you gave him? My mother's eyes filled with tears. We're sorry, Emily. Truly. But Jake. No. I held up a hand, cutting her off. Don't you dare make this about him. Not now. You don't get to show up here, after years of nothing, and expect me to forget everything because suddenly he needs something. The silence that followed was thick with tension. My father's face darkened, and for a second, I thought he might argue. But then, to my shock, his shoulders slumped. What do you want us to say? He asked quietly. What can we do? The raw desperation in his voice caught me off guard. This wasn't the man I remembered. The man who'd always been so sure, so in control. This was someone broken. And for the first time, I saw it. The truth they'd been avoiding. They weren't just here for Jake. They were here because they'd finally realized what they'd lost. But it was too late. There's nothing you can do, I said softly. You had years to fix this, years to treat me like I mattered, and you didn't. My mother let out a choked sob. Emily, please. No. I stepped back, my hand on the door. I gave him my answer. Now you need to live with it. I shut the door before they could respond. The knocking came again, softer this time, pleading, but I didn't move. Eventually it stopped. And just like that, they were gone. Again, the silence after they left was louder than any words they could have spoken. I stood frozen by the door, my palms still pressed flat against the wood as if to physically hold back the past. Their scent, my mother's lavender perfume, my father's aftershave, lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of everything I'd walked away from. The clock on the wall ticked. 1 minute. 5. 10. At some point, my legs gave out. I slid down against the door, pulling my knees to my chest, staring blankly at the opposite wall. I expected to cry, expected to feel something shatter inside me. But there was only quiet. A terrible, peaceful quiet. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't need to look to know who it was. Another plea. Another attempt to guilt me into changing my mind. I pulled it out, my thumb hovering over the power button. One press, and it would all stop. But something made me look. Emily, we're leaving. We won't bother you again. But please know we do love you. We just didn't know how to show it. I read the words once, twice, let them sink in. Then, methodically, I blocked every number, deleted every message, erased them from my life as thoroughly as they'd erased me from theirs. The sun set outside my window, painting the walls in shades of gold and shadow. I thought about Jake, my brother, the golden child, now fighting for his life. I wondered if he ever lay awake at night, replaying every cruel joke, every smirk, every time he took what wasn't his, not just things but moments, love, the very air in our home. I hoped he did. I hoped it haunted him. The next morning, I packed a bag. Not much, just enough to get away for a while. The city had never felt smaller, the walls never so close. I needed space, needed to breathe. As I locked my apartment door behind me, I paused. For one wild moment, I imagined opening it again to find them there, changed, repentant, finally seeing me. But the hallway was empty. And that was okay. The elevator doors closed. The numbers counted down. And with them, I let go of the anger, the hurt, the desperate hope that one day they'd wake up and love me the way I needed to be loved. Somewhere beyond these walls, my family was fighting for a miracle. But here, in this quiet metal box descending to the ground floor, I'd already found mine. Freedom. The doors opened. I stepped out and didn't look back.